Good day, it's me, Teacher Rona. So, in this lesson in Understanding Culture, Society, and Politics, we will talk about the aspects of culture. So, what comes into your mind when you hear the word culture? Very good. So, let's talk about culture. Culture is derived from the Latin term cult or cultus, meaning tilling or cultivating or refining, and worshipping, which actually makes it broader. So this means cultivating and refining a thing to such an extent that its end product evokes our interest and respect. So culture is closely connected with our lives. It is not by choice that you can choose what to add on, and a paraphernalia that we as human beings can use. It is not merely a touch of color. It is what makes us human. So without culture, we are not humans. Culture is actually made up of traditions, beliefs, and the way of life, from the most spiritual to the most material. It gives us a meaning, a way of leading our lives. So human beings are creators of culture, and at the same time, culture is what makes us human. Okay, so before digging more about this lesson, let's try to answer the following questions to assess your existing knowledge about this topic. So you have to write your answers in your notebook. Okay, for the pre-test. Number one, society came from a French word societas, which means A. Absolute, B. Carrier, C. Companion, D. Orientation. Number 2. Who is the father of sociology? A. Comte, B. Descartes, C. Malinowski, D. Thales. Number 3. It is the reason why schools, government, hospitals, and church have their own function to perform in society. A. Culture, B. Ethnocentrism, C. Cultural relativism, D. Structural functionalism. Number 4. Which of the following stated that sociological theory is in a state of perpetual conflict because of competition for limited resources? A. Comte, B. Karl Marx, C. Malinowski, D. Thales. Number 5. Which of the following statements is not true about culture? A. Culture is defined by norm. B. Culture is inherently biological. C. Culture is a collective behavior practiced by a group of people. D. Culture is handed down from one generation to the other as a kind of heritage. Number 6. The following statements describe the elements of culture as part of an encompassing complex whole, except A. Students saying the praise Eddie Wow. B. The use of the Baybayin script in fashion clothing and artworks. C. A physics experiment about interdimensional space-time travel. D. Declaring the Banawe rice terraces as a UNESCO World Heritage Site. Number 7. Which of the following examples do not describe culture as an organization of phenomena that is dependent upon symbols and includes acts, objects, ideas, and sentiments. A. Belief and practice of superstitious beliefs. B. Saying po and opo and pagmamano to the elderly. C. Worship of anitos, veneration of religious icons such as the Santo Niño. D. Feebux observing and identifying the fault lines in preparation for the big one. Number 8. What is the process whereby the cultural heritage socially transmitted from one generation to another? A. Acculturation. B. Analyzing. C. Coordination. D. Socialization. Number 9. True or false? Cultural elements are learned rather than acquired through inheritance or through any biological processes. A. False. B. True. Number 10. Culture also requires language and other forms of blank. A. Communications. B. Community. C. Intercultural. Or D. Human. Number 11. This refers for being a male or female. A. Age. B. Gender. C. Geographic region. Or D. Race. Number 12. This refers for being a bus driver, a cook, scientist, and a teacher. A. Age. B. Gender. C. Occupation. Or D. Race. Number 13. This means an actual behavior pattern exhibited by a member of the society. A. Ideal culture. B. Real culture. C. Material culture. Or D. Non-material. Number 14. These are cultural guidelines publicly embraced by members of the society, also defined as the social patterns mandated by norms and values. A. Ideal culture. B. Real culture. C. Material culture. Or D. Non-material. Number 15. These are customs or folkways that need to be followed by the society strictly. A. Folkways. B. Laws. C. Mores. D. Norms. Very good! What a nice start! Now, let's try to learn more about culture. Culture is life. Everything we do is all about culture. The food you eat, the clothes you wear, coupled with the kind of fashion you enjoy, the language that you speak and try to blend, the English and Tagalog becomes Taglish. So, how you communicate with others is part of culture. The God you worship are aspects of culture. So, to make it simple, culture is everything that we have received as a member of society. So, you have to pause for a while and think of about your personal preferences and the things, ideas, and practices that influence you the most. Okay, so what culture are these influences came from? You have to ask yourself, what culture are these influences came from? Are they naturally from your country or borrowed from the other countries? Very nice. So let's identify each of these cultural influences and create a chart that categorizes these influences to their respective cultures. So after making the chart, you have to ask yourself, am I a Filipino? Okay, so let's do the chart. Take a look at the concept map below. So you have to write 8 ideas about culture and construct 3 questions that can help you understand what culture is all about. And then after this activity, you have to listen to me carefully as I read a passage about culture for you to learn more, acquire more knowledge about culture. Okay, so let's do this activity. I'll give you time for this one. Listen to me carefully as I share a very informative passage about culture. Culture refers to the cumulative deposit of knowledge, experience, beliefs, values, attitudes, meanings, hierarchies, religion, notions of time, roles, spatial relations, concepts of the universe and material objects, and possessions acquired by a group of people in the course of generations through individual and group striving. Culture is the systems of knowledge shared by a relatively large group of people. Culture is communication. Communication is culture. Culture in its broadest sense is cultivated behavior. That is the totality of a person's learned, accumulated experience which is socially transmitted, or more briefly, behavior through social learning. A culture is a way of life of a group of people. The behaviors, beliefs, values, and symbols that they accept, generally without thinking about them, and that are passed along by communication and imitation from one generation to the next. Culture is symbolic communication. Some of its symbols include a group's skills, knowledge, attitudes, values, and motives. The meanings of the symbols are learned and deliberately perpetuated in a society through its institutions. Culture consists of patterns, explicit and implicit, of and for behavior acquired and transmitted by symbols, constituting the distinctive achievement of human groups, including their embodiment in artifacts. The essential core of culture consists of traditional ideas and especially their attached values. Culture systems may, on the one hand, be considered as products of action. On the other hand, as conditioning influences upon further action. Culture is the sum of total of the learned behavior of a group of people that are generally considered to be the tradition of that people and are transmitted from generation to generation. Culture is a collective programming of the mind that distinguishes the members of one group or category of people from another. So after listening the passage, you will have a concrete understanding of culture. Okay, so let us review your 3 questions on the concept map that you created a while ago. And then you have to define at least 5 ideas from the ideas that you have made on the concept map a while ago. After this activity, you have to choose a song in which you think the song is related to culture. You have to write the lyrics in your notebook and list down the aspect of culture portrayed in the song. For your guided activity, write 3 things about the Philippine culture. Write your answer in your notebook. And for your guided assessment, you have to answer the following questions in an essay form. Write your answer in your notebook. Use 50 to 100 words each question. Number 1. Describe the culture of your hometown. Elaborate your answers. Example. Corn Festival is celebrated in Mexico, Pampanga, every May 4th of the year in respect to Santa Monica, the patron saint of Mexico, Pampanga. It is a huge festival wherein there were participants of street dancing. It was a colorful festival. A lot of food, drinks, and so on. Okay, that is one example of describing the culture in your hometown. And then for your guided activity 2, you have to make a collage of pictures using old magazines or newspaper available at home. You have to recycle, okay? Portray your understanding of culture using this collage. And for another activity, write your answers in your notebook. Pictures are examples of Filipino culture in terms of family, lifestyle, and entertainment. Describe the following pictures. 3 to 5 sentences, okay? You have to describe the pictures using 3 to 5 sentences. And for your independent activity 1, so as a student and a member of the society, wherein you are also counted in a beautiful culture that we have, how will you preserve this kind of culture to the next generation? You have to expound your answer. And for the independent activity 2, answer the crossword and be guided with the description below. After you have answers all this, you will be able to know the elements of culture. For the independent assessment 2, choose only one task. The first one is you have to capture 10 pictures that will define the culture of your family. Write the best hashtag on each pictures. So meaning you have to upload those pictures in your Facebook account. Number 2, interview a Facebook friend and ask him or her to send you 10 pictures that will define culture of his or her family. You only have to choose one, okay? And of course, let's try to assess your learnings in this lesson by answering the following questions. In test 1, you have to identify which of the following is a true definition of culture. Write a mark on each statement. Write AB for a proper definition and an X mark for a false definition. Write your answers in your notebook. Number 1. Culture refers to the cumulative deposit of knowledge, experience, beliefs, values, attitudes, meanings, hierarchies, religion, notions of time, roles, spatial relations, concepts of the universe, and material objects and possessions acquired by a group of people in the course of generations through individual and group striving. Number 2. Culture is the systems of knowledge shared by a relatively large group of people. Number 3. Culture is a non-communication. Non-communication is culture. Number 4. Culture in its broadest sense is synthetic behavior. That is the partial sum of a person's learned, accumulated experiences, and social learning. Number 5. A culture is a way of life of a group of people, the behaviors, beliefs, values, and symbols that they accept, generally without thinking about them, and that are passed along by communication and imitation from one generation to the next. Number 6. Culture is symbolic communication. Some of its symbols include a group's skills, knowledge, attitudes, values, and motives. The meanings of the symbols are learned and deliberately perpetuated in a society through its institutions. Number 7. Culture consists of patterns, in explicit and implicit, of and for behavior acquired and transmitted by symbols, constituting the distinctive achievement of human groups, including their embodiments in artifacts. The essential core of culture consists of new ideas and especially their attached values. Culture systems may, on the one hand, be considered as products of action. On the other hand, as conditioning influences upon further action. Number 8. Culture is the sum of total of the learned behavior of a group of people that are generally considered to be the tradition of that people and are transmitted from generation to generation. Number 9. Culture is a collective programming of the mind that distinguishes the members of one group or category of people from another. Number 10. Culture is a branch of made-up practices that gained popularity over time, but have no deep meaning whatsoever. And for test 2, multiple choice. Write the letter of the correct answer in your notebook. Number 1. These are words, gestures, pictures, or objects that carry a particular meaning which is only recognized by those who share a particular culture. A. Symbols, B. Heroes, C. Rituals, or D. Values. Number 2. These are collective activities, sometimes superfluous in reaching desired objectives, but are considered as socially essential. A. Symbols, B. Heroes, C. Rituals, or D. Values. Number 3. These are persons, past or present, real or fictitious, who possess characteristics that are highly prized in a culture. A. Symbols, B. Heroes, C. Rituals, or D. Values. Number 4. This form of core of culture and its deepest manifestations. A. Symbols, B. Heroes, C. Rituals, or D. Values. Number 5. They manifest themselves in different ways and differing levels of depth. A. Cultural determinism, B. Cultural differences, C. Cultural relativism, or D. Cultural ethnocentrism. Number 6. There's no scientific standards for considering one group as intrinsically superior or inferior to another. A. Cultural determinism, B. Cultural differences, C. Cultural relativism, D. Cultural ethnocentrism. Number 7. The position that the ideas, meanings, beliefs, and values people learn as members of society determines human nature. A. Cultural determinism, B. Cultural differences, C. Cultural relativism, or D. Cultural ethnocentrism. Number 8. The belief that one's own culture is superior to that of other cultures. A. Cultural determinism, B. Cultural differences, C. Cultural ethnocentrism, D. Cultural relativism. Number 9. The intangible manifestation of culture. A. Ceremonies, B. Folkways, C. Meaning, D. Practice. Last number 10. The sum total of the learned behavior of a group of people that are generally considered to be the tradition of that people and are transmitted from generation to generation. A. Culture, B. Psychology, C. Politics, D. Society. You did a great job.